Good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Malmesbury. I think it's about 22 degrees, something like that. And of course, I'm in the studio editing a wedding. And just interestingly, I thought when I was going through this wedding that a lot of the images that I was taking were shot on the little Fuji X70. The X70 is a tiny little camera. If you look at it compared to my iPhone 7 Plus, this is an iPhone 7 Plus, by the way, so it's a little bit bigger. But you know, you can get an idea of the size of it there. When I'm using this camera, this X70 at a wedding, I'm literally using something that's smaller than a lot of the guests, whatever they're shooting with their little point and shoots. Some of them will have DSLRs, some of them will have iPhones. Like I say, the iPhone in terms of length is bigger than its camera. I'm not going to go into the specification or technicalities of this camera. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I use it, why I use it, show some pictures, some settings, all of that kind of stuff. Needless to say though, it is it's like a little X100T in a box. Same sensor, it's f2.8 rather than f2. It has a flippy screen that kind of goes in all kinds of directions like this, so if you're into selfies you can do all of that stuff. It has a touchscreen on the back, which I typically never use. It's reasonably good in low light. I would shoot it probably up to 6400, bearing in mind it's an f2.8 lens rather than f2. It's definitely a backup camera. It's not a camera that I would use just to shoot a wedding. I've shot weddings before on just X100s or X100Ss. I wouldn't just shoot on one of these. The benefit of this camera, or the great thing about this camera, is that it literally will just sit in my pocket and I can pull it out as and when I wish. When I really want to get in close, when I really want to kind of a little bit wider than the X100T and just kind of blend in a little bit more and just be part of the guests, you know, and just kind of get those shots. Now, because it doesn't have a viewfinder, I can't literally go like this. Which is disarming in its own right. So normally the way that I would shoot with this camera is to set it up in a zone focusing mechanism. I would set the depth of field and set the aperture, etc., depending on the light, and I would actually close that screen down. You know, you can shoot with it tilted, but I would normally close it down and shoot from the hip or shoot from the shoulder or whatever it is. But you can't really shoot from the viewfinder, of course, it doesn't exist. You can buy a viewfinder that will go in the top. It's an optical viewfinder. It's not particularly great in my opinion. It doesn't have like adapter adjustment, etc. So, you know, it might be okay for you, but personally, I think the camera is fine as it is. It's really small, really tiny, so light, and you know, it's a really good camera to have in the camera bag, especially for the type of weddings that I shoot. This is one of my favorite images actually taken with the X70. As you can see from the EXIF data in the bottom right hand side, it's taken with the wide angle conversion lens, which brings it down to about 14 millimeters. That's 21, I think, roughly in full frame equivalent. And I like the picture because of the framing, the light, the shadows, etc. But it's a good example of when this camera really works. I had it in my pocket. We're not really allowed to take photos of the signing of the register, certainly not in front of the table when all of that stuff is going on. So I took the opportunity to just step back, bring the camera out of my jacket pocket, open the screen, frame, compose, and shoot. This picture was taken at a dawn wedding at Stonehenge last summer. This was about 5:30 in the morning, I guess. A bride, groom, son, daughter approaching the stones, and I really wanted to get that kind of angle, to give that message that they're approaching those stones for the first time. I think the X70 really allows you to have fun, and it allows people to behave slightly differently. In this picture, Tia and her bridesmaids are getting ready and they're having a bit of fun, laugh. I've spot metered on Tia's face. And you know, the picture's nice. It's a really nice memory of the day, and it doesn't bother me that the bridesmaid is looking directly at me because it's all part of the scene. This image is from the same wedding, in fact, a little bit later in the day during the drink reception or during the meal. And you know, it's great to just be able to blend right in. This camera is right up my hip level. I've just wandered past the people opposite and taken this shot of them having, you know, a really great day. Similar. Same wedding, same position, same angle. This is every moment at every wedding. Tia, you know, she's eating. Her dad is having fun with the sister or the bridesmaid. You've got the guy delivering the drinks. There's action all over. It's cluttered. It's a real wedding, and it's a real wedding picture, I think. This is a fun picture, and it deserves to be in color. I love the wide-angle view of this that the X70, the 14mm gives. You just can't get this with the X100 so much. And you know, the angle works. You've got the guy on the right hand side who's just taking a picture with his phone. He's moving out the way. I'm not interrupting the scene in any shape, Bride's just getting out of the car, big smile. And this kind of picture also, you can really get in close. This is a very typical English wedding scene. You've got the guy there with his jacket and his suit, and he's having a conversation, and you kind of look at the people and think, I wonder what they're talking about. And I've just stood next to them, and that X70 zone focused ping shot taken. Same thing. This color image obviously is all about the blues. It's about the granny and that kind of look on her face. What's this on the phone? You've just taken a picture. I need to take a look at this. And really putting that camera down, shooting up into them, gives this image. If I'd stood there in front of them and raised any camera to my eye, this whole thing would have gone away. And for this image, I'm just actually sat on the deck chair, just casually watching the kids play their games. I don't really want to interact with them. I don't want them to be threatened by the fact that I'm there with a camera. So I'm actually shooting, looking completely the opposite direction, and just getting this perspective, this really low down perspective that tells the story of the event unfolding. And this is an example of using the camera really quickly. I'm taking a shot of the bride and the bridesmaids coming out of the house, walking towards the church with my X Pro 2, standard stuff going on there. And I decide I'm just going to pop onto the grass and get this kind of wider shot, this horizontal shot. And instead of changing the cameras or my X Pro 2s, I just pull out that X70 from my pocket. And you know what? Sometimes, occasionally, you get double rainbows. In this case, I've just popped to the loo myself. It's a break during the wedding. I've popped to the loo. The bride happens to be there. And, the camera, it's just in my pocket, that X70. I didn't even have my X Pro 2s with me. Now, this image here, it seems quite wide, and the reason why I'm showing this is to show you the crop level, because obviously it's a smaller sensor than we're used to now in the X Pro 2, or sort of smaller megapixels, I should say, than we're used to in the X Pro 2 and the XT2. And you can see when this image crops down now in a moment that it's actually reasonable. It's the same as the X100T. I think it's the same sensor as the XE2, so it's perfectly capable of taking those wide shots. And if you really need to, if you're worrying about that wider angle and the fact that it's at 14mm, you can crop in quite reasonable. And what wedding wouldn't be complete without a little bit of dad dancing? So in this case, I'm using the EF20 flash on the X70, just literally lifted both things over my head and taken the picture, popped it out. It's a really versatile little camera. It's not used for all the shots, of course, during the wedding, but I think having it with you is a no-brainer for me. Now, let's move on to things like street and social documentary photography. This is taken at the Cheltenham Festival, and I'm not interested in the horses, to be honest with you. I'm interested in the people and being able to really just walk up to people. The camera is, you can see from the angle where the camera is, it's right down by my hips. But I can get these characters, I can get shots like this with people celebrating and, the people in the background not celebrating. And, it's this ability to just take pictures of people being people without them really being at all aware that these images are being taken. That's where the X70 comes into its own. Whether you use the flip down screen or whether you just zone focus, doesn't really matter. And in images like this, for example, it's the guy with the horse's head obviously is what makes the picture, but it's the whole thing. You've got the guy yawning on the right hand side, the people drinking, you've got some people dressed up very smartly, you've got the clutter on the floor, you've got the mess. It really kind of tells a story, I think. Another example here of some kind of street photography images. It's not the camera that I would use all the time for street photography. I still think the X100F is the better choice for that. But, in certain circumstances, the X70 is going to be great. Flip down screen, shot from my kind of shoe level, just trying to get the idea of the reflections, the wet weather. This shot was taken in New York last November, and it's a spot metered image. We've got a puddle of light that's flying against the window across the scene. The guy walks into the scene, metered for that highlight area, just waited for him to walk in and shoot. Again, very, very low level, shot from that hip, zone focused. Now, we're moving into what I would call the vibrant scene taken at Weston-super-Mare, which is my local seaside town, if you like. And when the sun comes out, the Brits take their shirts off. And so images like this I love. And you can see really how close I've got. I'm probably a foot away from that couple. As I am with these guys, I have no idea what's going on here. It all looks a bit shady, but it's probably not. A shot taken from underneath my arm, just walking by them on the beach, walking back to the car. Interesting set of characters, picture taken. 14mm with a wide angle conversion lens. This was taken a couple of weeks ago in Switzerland. It's a snapshot more than anything, but just a bit of fun really, I suppose. A little bit of colour, a little bit of humour going on in that picture. Again, it's pouring with rain, so I'm kind of just shooting out on the streets, just wandering around, seeing what's happening, just keeping my eyes open. But you know, much with my X100F, it's really the pictures of the kids, the family. You know, that camera, like I said, it's everywhere, it's tiny. I take more pictures with my X70 than I do with my phone, and that's saying something really, because the phone is literally in my bag with me all the time. Just love taking shots of the kids being kids. And you know, again, we're back on the beach here and Rosa's doing her roly-polies or handstands, whatever you call it. I just love that perspective, you know, and that width, that 14mm with that wide angle conversion is beautiful, and just allows me to get these fun pictures really that, you know, I'm not going to get probably with my phone if I don't pick that camera up and just pop it in my pocket. Same here out in Spain, little shot of Rosa jumping into the water. You know, I'm actually in the water myself here. I've got the camera kind of right back, so nice and wide, watching her pop in. It's around about f4 this, so I've kind of zone focused across the back end of the pool. She may well jump a little bit too close to me, and same with Albie. This is a little bit wider, similar type of shot, just waiting, click, away it goes. I'm unlikely to take my X Pro 2 into the swimming pool. Probably shouldn't take my X70 into the swimming pool, to be honest with you, and I have in fact dropped my X100S into that very same swimming pool. But you know, it's this thing, this idea of having that camera with you always and just really taking it out and about, popping those pictures off and enjoying it. So there we have it, a couple of images from the X70, how I use it, why I use it, why I like the camera so much. In the show notes below this video will be a link to my F16 website, where I will put a blog post accompanying this video to talk about the settings and a few more kind of configuration stuff. Now, I really don't know what the future holds for the X70. I hope that Fujifilm build on it. I believe it's quite difficult to get hold of right now, so who knows, maybe there'll be an X75 or an X80 or an X70S or something in the future. I really hope so. It's a beautiful camera, and I would love to see something like this with a larger megapixel sensor in it, maybe the same sensor the X100F or something. Beautiful. Hope you liked the video. Please like it if you did, and subscribe to the channel also if you want to, and hope to see you in the next one.